Welcome to the GTN Show. I'm out in Kona, so we're bringing you a show from Kona just to make you jealous. The race only happened yesterday. We're going to bring you all the action, some of the things you missed, some of the things we missed during the race yesterday. Plus, the PTO rankings have been updated and we have the Kona bike count numbers. Let's start the show. So on the show, as we always do with some of the stuff we've noticed on the internet, and actually this one's not from Kona, but most of them are, just warning you. This one's actually Lucy Charles Barkley, who swam a 1500 meter British and European record. Masters record, not overall record. She swam a 16:55:36 time for 1500 meters at the Masters Champs, and also got a gold medal in the 4x200 mixed relay. So yeah, going really well. Of course, she's preparing for the T100 final in 3 weeks' time. Very good swimming there, and looks like she had a lot of fun. Apparently it was her training pool that she trained in when she was a kid. Okay, moving on to some reacts from Kona itself. Another swim record, and this was an age grouper. We looked at the swim times when the pros came out. Despite the optimal conditions, they didn't swim a record, which was a bit disappointing actually. And then an age grouper swam of the record, 45:43. Sam Askey-Doran from Australia in the age grouper, fastest ever swim time here in Kona. Very impressive swimming there. Then out onto the bike, we saw this from Ironman. Sam Laidlow missing bottle after bottle after bottle. And we actually saw this not too long ago at a T100. It is very difficult to take bottles when you're going 45 kilometers an hour plus. And yeah, that's what Sam found. Just kept knocking them out. Did that affect him later on in the race? Maybe. Also, Christian Blumenfeld had some problems with his new hydration. It seemed to be going the wrong way. Charming. Both of them suffered later on in the race, and it does really go to show that in Kona, the nutrition is the fourth discipline. You have to be able to keep that fluid down. You have to be able to get that fluid in. Both of them paid the price for that later on in the race. I'll actually ask Christian about that because I'll be seeing him later. But Sam, not willing to sacrifice those seconds to grab the bottles, to slow down and get the bottles, did ride the fastest ever time here in Kona, 3:57:22, which was actually, as far as I can tell, the third fastest Ironman bike time in history on all bike courses, including ridiculously fast bike courses like Ironman Brazil or Ironman Barcelona. Just goes to show how ridiculously fast the guys were riding out here, because he wasn't even the only one who broke that Kona course record. There were a few others that did too. In fact, Trevor Foley was on course to break the course record and be second fastest time behind Sam Laidlow, but he crashed. I didn't see this at all. Didn't cover it in the coverage. He crashed with half a mile to go on the bike course. Went over his handlebars, put him out of the race. Very disappointing because he can run too, so he might have run his way up. He had biked all the way up into contention, and he might have run his way up, but unfortunately, yeah, came half a mile short. Definitely a name to watch in the future though, although he did lose 8 minutes on the swim, so he's going to have to work on that swim. That bike course record by Sam, he did hold on to finish the race in 18th place, way down. I mean, an 8:01 is way down these days. He did finish it, so he will hold that bike course record. We actually had some comments under our video where I said that he had finished mostly to hold that course record, and people said that's ridiculous, why would he do that? Holding the bike course record in Kona is a massive achievement, something that he might hold for years. The conditions were optimal, and they may not be again for many, many years to come. Sam Laidlow may still be holding that record in 5-6 years' time, and that's definitely worth suffering your way through the back half of a marathon when you've blown up, which he did. And yeah, I don't think it takes anything away from him to say that that might have been his motivation. I think credit to him for toughing it out, getting to the finish line. He might have done it just to hold that record. We also saw Leon dunking his head in a bucket of ice, which he got some criticism for on social media. And yeah, the ice buckets are there for everyone, and it is a little bit rude. But when you're coming second in the world champs and feeling like you're overheating, I think you probably justify it. We've seen guys doing all kinds of things like taking 2-liter Coke bottles, and last year Patrick Langer, or 2 years ago, Patrick Langer was grabbing entire jugs. In fact, this time everyone was grabbing entire jugs at the aid stations. Then we saw Patrick Langer going past Sam Ledlow and giving a little tap on the bum. A little bit of mutual respect there. It was kind of all over for Sam at that point. There was no real race between those two. Sam Ledlow was in his own world of hurt. Patrick Langer, what do I say about his performance? Unbelievable. Incredible run in those conditions. And when I say those conditions, it was a really good day for swimming fast and for biking fast. It was kind of cool, not much wind. But not much wind in Kona makes for a very, very hot run. For him to put down that run in those conditions was incredible. Really, really impressive. He crossed the line. I want to say happy, but actually, if you watch him cross the line, it seemed like he was mostly angry. Clearly, there was a lot of frustration there that he had got out by proving his doubters wrong and hushing his critics. And he was emotional across the line, and not necessarily joyful emotional, more angry emotional. But hey, taking nothing away from him, he can celebrate it any way he likes. A little bit later on, we saw Billy Monger crossing the finish line. And this is impressive. A record in his division, the PC division, for that Rudy Garcia Tolson hold that record a few years ago. He smashed the record. He's doing it for Comic Relief, so if you do want to support his cause, head over to Comic Relief and support Billy. He's raising money for Comic Relief. Hats off to him, and hats off to his whole team, the Precision Fuel and Hydration guys who helped him get ready for the heat and humidity in Kona and get his nutrition right. What do I say? Just hats off. And one more thing I noticed on social media, Martin Van Riel posted this post. He said, the ones that stayed in the group got rewarded. The fact people have to constantly sit up and even break to not come into each other's draft zone on a straight highway just doesn't sit good with me. They are saving at least 30 to 40 watts, if not more. This is not the individual sport triathlon should be. The races, and especially world champs, get more competitive every year, so this will only get worse. We need the 20 meters rule at Ironman World Champs. This is one of the reasons I prefer doing the T100 over Ironman, which is interesting because he's the new PTO's world number one. I have to say I agree with him. The original reason for having 12 meters at Kona was because the reflectors, the cat's eyes on the highway are 12 meters, which made it very easy for referees on motorbikes to judge whether people were in the draft zone or not in the draft zone and give out penalties accordingly. But now they have Race Ranger, and they can just change the setting on Race Ranger to 20 meters. Then a light shines when they're in the draft zone. You don't need to use the cat's eyes on the course. There is literally no more reason to not have 20 meters here. And hopefully Ironman can change that rule for next year. I guess before we move on, I should probably wrap up what the actual results for the Ironman World Champs were, in case, I don't know, you've been somewhere where there was no cell phone reception for the last 4 days or so. The winner was Patrick Langer, swam a 47.09, biked a 4:06.22, and then ran a 2:37.34, which is unbelievable. In fact, the second fastest run split was Matt Hansen, a very handy runner. He ran a 2:45.25. Over 7 minutes slower, the second fastest run. In second place, Magnus Ditlev in a 7:43.39. In third place, Rudy von Berg rounding out the podium. Leon Chevalier in fourth. Menno Koolhaas, the leader out the swim, in fifth. A very good all-round day for him. Gregory Barnaby from Italy in sixth. Cameron Worth, who actually didn't bike like he normally does, but ran incredibly well, ran his way up into seventh place. Kieran Linders, who was second to Christian Bloemfeld in Frankfurt earlier this year, a bit of a surprise result there, had an amazing race to finish eighth. Christian Hurgenhaag in ninth, and Matt Hansen with that second fastest run, running his way up to 10th. Bradley Weiss in 11th, Matthias Pedersen in 12th, Dave McNamee in 13th, Kasper Stepniak in 14th, and Matthew Marquardt from America in 15th. And then we had some bike count numbers from Kona. So let's get into those numbers. If you don't know, every year at Kona, and it's been going for a good many years, they do a bike count. They now obviously do it at Nice too, because that's the World Champs also. All of the bikes, what frames they are, what the manufacturers are, what the wheels they're riding, what components they're riding, etc. It's a very good industry litmus test. So thank you to Triathlete for helping organize it and run it all. We got the numbers here. Canyon has taken the lead. This after Cervelo has led in Kona for many, many years. Canyon did take the lead in Nice, which was not unexpected because, of course, it's European, but now they're substantially in front. In fact, they're ahead of Cervelo, but Cervelo hasn't actually lost that many bikes. It just seems that Canyon is hoovering up all the bikes from smaller brands that are disappearing, and maybe brands that are losing some ground. Interestingly, Specialized still holding 7.5% of the field, despite Specialized not actually having a tri-bike anymore and not sponsoring any pros and not being involved in triathlon whatsoever. They've stepped completely back from triathlon and yet still got 7.5% of the bike count. Quintana Roo losing some ground on last year, while non-traditional bikes like Ku, which is a very non-traditional bike, have actually gained a fair amount of ground. Ku getting over 1% of the count. Meanwhile, in aero bars, Profile Design, as usual, head and shoulders above everyone else with a quarter of all the aero bars on there. People don't always choose their aero bars, of course, and Profile Design coming OEM on many of the frames accounts for some of that, but they do have a pretty good selection of aero bars these days. Moving on to components, again, people don't often choose their components. They just come spec on bikes, and Shimano comes on more bikes than SRAM comes on. So 69% of the bikes were riding Shimano, 30% SRAM, and a tiny fraction were riding rotor components. The wheels, no surprise there. Zip leading the wheel count with 28%. DT Swiss taking a big portion with 21%. Head at 8%. Bontrager at 6%. And Envy at 5.6%. And the rest, interestingly, nearly 3% riding alloy wheels in Kona. And then pedals, no surprise again. Shimano leads the count with 27.5%. The thing with pedals, though, is that nobody gets spec pedals with their bike. Bikes don't come with pedals, so everyone has to choose what pedals they ride, but the majority choosing Shimano, although look is creeping up in that number, 24%. Saddles, again, most people choosing their saddle rather than the one that comes with their bike. ISM is still a big leader in the triathlon market on the saddles with 32%. Celitalia up there, Physique up there, and Bontrager up there with their saddles. Interesting numbers there. I guess you can read into it what you like, but it is very interesting to keep an eye on as we go through the years. Canyon making massive grounds in the triathlon market and taking another win here. I think that's 7 out of the last 9 champions at the Ironman World Champs riding a Canyon bike. All right, moving on with some news that isn't Kona related. In fact, it doesn't even take into account Kona, so maybe needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. The PTO have updated their rankings for the year so far, and a few changes, particularly on the men's side, when we've just had Kona and it didn't take into account Kona. Anyway, on the women's side first, the top 5 are still the same. Taylor Knibb leads with Ashley Gentle in 2nd, Kat Matthews in 3rd, Laura Phillip in 4th, and India Lee in 5th. Not many races left to change that now, but there could still be some changes. Judy Derrin jumps up 13 places after her 2 performances, her 2 second places in the last 2 T100s. Jumps up 13 places into 6th. Paula Findlay in 7th. Interestingly, Anne Haug drops out of the top 10 into 11th place, and that's on the back of, well, 3 punctures taking her out of races this year. Really needs to sort out those tyres. And the rest are kind of much the same. 1 or 2 movers up or down 1 or 2 positions, but that's about it. Meanwhile, on the men's side, Martin van Riel jumps up to the top spot. He jumps up 4 places, and he is now top of the world's rankings with only 1 more T100 to come and 70.3 world champs, and not much else going to change those rankings. Although, as I say, the Kona results are not in there. Interestingly, Patrick Langer is not even in the top 20 currently. So do the maths on whether he can jump up. It does show that the rankings really require you to race often, and well, that's a whole debate that's kind of kicking off a little bit now, because the best performers at Kona were the ones who haven't been racing often this year. You just can't race every month throughout the year and still be on peak performance. That's a debate that the world of triathlon needs to have. Anyway, Magnus Ditlev drops down. He's in 2nd, Carl Smith in 3rd, Sam Long in 4th. Peter Himmerich jumps up a couple of spots to 8th. Giens jumps up 12 spots into 12th spot on the back of his performance, his win at the T100 Las Vegas, and 2 podiums in 70.3s. And the big mover in the top 20, Nicholas Mann from Germany, who got a wild card for that T100 in Vegas, finished 8th, and then he's got 2 70.3 wins to his name too this year, and he jumps all the way up into 15th place. In fact, he jumped up 120 spots with that performance. It just goes to show how valuable it is being in those diamond T100 races. And some more news from the world of triathlon. Triathlon will not be in the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow in 2026. If you haven't been following this, the Commonwealth Games were supposed to be held in Melbourne, Australia, and just 18 months before those games were supposed to happen, they pulled out and said they can't host it. Apparently because of spiraling costs. They initially estimated it was going to cost $2.7 billion to host the Commonwealth Games, and that estimate had grown out to $6 billion, and they were just, we can't do that, and they said they won't be hosting it. So it was left without a host city. Glasgow stepped in for 2026, and they will host it. However, only 10 events will happen. If you're not familiar with the Commonwealth Games is a bit like the Olympic Games, but just for Commonwealth countries, happens every 4 years. It will be happening in Glasgow in 2026. It has been happening for nearly 100 years, since 1930, with as many as 22 sports. This time, only 10. And one of those sports on the chopping block was triathlon. So there will be no triathlon in the Commonwealth Games, which is quite disappointing. World Triathlon put out a statement saying World Triathlon is disappointed to learn that triathlon will not be included in the sport program for the 2026 Commonwealth Games. The Commonwealth Games Federation have communicated to World Triathlon that the decision not to include triathlon in the 26 sport program does not impact or set a precedent on the sport's position in future games, and that there will be an opportunity for sports to return for future editions. However, at this point, it's not even clear whether there will be any future editions of the Commonwealth Games, because no countries or cities have stepped forward to bid for the hosting of the 2030 Commonwealth Games. So, yeah, not sure whether that's even going to happen, but even when it does happen in 2026, triathlon will not be part of it. If you missed it on our channel, we put 2 tech videos out from Kona in the last week, so I'm not going to run through everything we showed you in those. You can go watch those when you finished watching this video. We do have some information though from Coros. Our watch partner has given us a sneak peek of a new launch coming at the end of this week. A Coros Pace Pro. That is an update on their Coros Pace 3, and it looks like pretty much everything about the watch has been updated. I've been perusing the tech sheets, and it does look like a pretty cool upgrade. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to tell you any more than that, otherwise I'll get in big trouble. So you just have to wait and see. We'll release it next week. Now it's time for Try Spy. If you missed it last week, we did actually do it with Leon, but we had some technical difficulties. See, I was looking at you, camera operator. So we're going to do it again. If you did guess on it, this was the image. Can you tell who that is? Well, some of you could, but some of you couldn't. Untypical said, Javier Gomez. And then he said, yes, I feel crazy for saying it. Yeah, it wasn't Javier Gomez. Yoga triathlete said Flora Duffy, which also wasn't right. Isaac Tyson said Alice Alberts, also wasn't right. But quite a few of you did get it correct. Martin Frace got it right first, said Lucy Charles Barkley. Well done, Martin. It was Lucy Charles Barkley. James HMD also said LCB. Benjamin Brew said way too easy, guys. It's definitely Lucy. And Banku Tip said LCB. You were all correct. This week we have this image. Can you tell who that pro is? Leave your comments down below. Try Spy and tell us who that is. Say what? Okay, comment under our video. We put out a race recap from the Ironman World Champs, and Colin B8327 said, he said we shouldn't expect too much from him, and he was right. Ouch, smiley face. I hope I never have James commentating on a race I do. I can imagine his comment about me. And without a doubt, the slowest athlete was the lard ass who looked like a mobile lava lamp on the run. I would not say that. Unless, of course, you said that, and Colin had said before the race, I look like a lava lamp on the run, and then I would say, well, before the race, Colin said he looked like a lava lamp on the run, and he was right. Well, to be fair, Gustav Eden did tell me, to my face not to expect too much. And yeah, he didn't really have a great day out there. In fact, he got a penalty for littering, just to add insult to injury. So I'm sure we'll see Gustav Iden back at his absolute best in the not too distant future. But he really wasn't on form, and I don't think I was being that harsh pointing that out. But yeah, I'm South African, we tell it how it is. If you're looking for something to watch on the channel right now, I made a video about Kona, about how it's beautiful and it's brutal and why it's so iconic. And with the race you just watched fresh in your mind, I suggest you go watch that video, because it does really sum up this very special island and how crazy it is, but also how beautiful it is all at once. It's worth a watch. And coming up on the channel this coming week, we have some more interesting videos from Kona, including some pro bikes like Cam Wirf's Pinarello Bolide, which I got to have a close look at. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of those videos, and hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. We'll see you on the GTN Show next week. Right, where's that cocktail? I am done. Feet in the sand. Time to relax. Oh.